This is a traditional mortise gauge by Crown Tools. It's made in Sheffield, England, all made from rosewood and solid brass, so it's very, very nice and solid. Feels lovely to use. Got a great 3.5mm brass wear strip, which means that your screw knob isn't going to indent the timber and create little dents that are going to cause imperfections on your work later on. 2.5mm pin, which is really nice and thick. It's going to reduce chatter when you're pushing this across the timber grain. We've also got brass wear strips along the fence here, and that's going to stop the wood wearing away and keep the tool really nice and true for many, many years. I dare say one of these would outlast me. So you set this like any standard marking gauge. You can loosen the screw so you can slide the fence along the bar, tighten the screw, and that sets that in place. Make sure that you're measuring to the tip of the pin, not the base of the pin, because that'll affect your measurement. I like to use one of these little rulers, but you could use a calipers, or even if you created a little reference piece, if you wanted to do a whole bunch of mortises or tenons that were exactly the same width, you could throw a little piece of wood in there so that each one was exactly the same. That's up to you, but just make sure you are measuring to the tip. I want to mark out 15mm from the end of my timber to create a line for my tenon. So I've set this distance to 15mm and I've tightened it off, and now I just want to check it again to make sure that it's stayed exactly where it needs to. It looks like it's actually gotten slightly smaller, so I need to move the fence back down the rod. Now you can just undo that and tighten it up and check it all again, and that would be fine. But you can also just give it a gentle tap while you've got some tension on that knob locking the fence in place. And that'll just move the fence ever so slightly down this rod here, and it's a good way of micro adjusting. And if you need to go the other way, just turn it onto its head, some gentle taps, and that's exactly where it needs to be. So I just tighten it up one last time, and now I'm ready to mark out my tenon. So I like to put 2 fingers behind the fence on the top, 2 fingers below. Make sure that you're holding your fence flush up to the piece of timber that you're trying to reference. So in this case, it's our end grain. And when you press that nail, the little pin against the timber, you want to be doing it at an angle. You want to be dragging it past the timber rather than driving it in, because that'll cause a lot of imperfections and inaccuracies in your work. So drag it really gently until you've scribed a line, and then you can, once you've scribed a line to start with, you can run it over a couple more times until you've got a really nice sharp line that you can reference for your chiseling later on. So these traditional marking gauges also come in a miniature size. Now this is made from rosewood also. It doesn't have those brass inlays, but still a fantastic little tool, and really useful if you've got very small hands, or you want to be doing some super fine work where the bulk of this is just kind of getting in the way. So maybe for model making or some just super fine joinery, these are just sometimes a little simpler to use. The process of setting it is exactly the same as with the larger version. You've just got a little bit less bulk to get in the way. For large joins, you won't find this to be as useful because you need that really nice large reference fence, but for small stuff, this is just fantastic. So these marking gauges, obviously, because they only have 1 pin, you can only draw 1 line at a time. Now, when you're marking out a whole bunch of mortises, sometimes it's really handy to have 2 pins, and that's when a mortising gauge comes in handy, because it does actually have those 2 pins as well as a single pin on the bottom. So if that's what you're after, go over to the mortising gauge video and check that out as well. You can pick these up at Timbecon, either on their website at timbecon.com.au or in either of their stores in Perth and in Melbourne.